about this particular CVE. All right. So you may be wondering, like, how do I register these servers? So like I said, like you don't need to install any fixed packs as long as you are above 1803 for Liberty or 9055 for TBOS. Then you already have that capability. So I'm going to walk you through registering one of the Liberty server that I have locally running here. But before I do that, in order to do that, you need 3 pieces of information. You need to tell the server where the WebSphere automation is running, so it can communicate with that. So you need the URL for the API. That's this particular information. Then for secure communication, you also need the API key as well as the certificate for the trust store that you need to import. So all this information can be easily obtained by running a few commands, or if you are using like OpenShift, you can get that information easily. But we are trying to make that even easier by adding that information to the WebSphere automation dashboard in the future. So I have already gathered those 3 pieces of information that I need to register one of the server. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, I have a Liberty 20.012 server that's running locally. So let's make sure that server is actually running. Yeah, so as you can see, it's just starting. So once so it's up and running. So let's go ahead and look at the server. So this is the default configuration. So before I enable the registration with usage metering, these are the pieces of information that you need to enable. So you need to enable this particular feature called usage metering. If this particular server doesn't already have that feature, then you need to install that first using this install utility. But once that's done, you can simply enable that feature. Other than that, then you need to configure the usage metering. So that the 3 pieces of information that we talked about, the URL, and you provide the API key, and then you also configure the key store to point to that imported trust store. So I haven't done that step yet. So let's go ahead and import that certificate. All right, so it's asking for the key store password. Provide that and say trust the certificate. So the certificate has been added. So now let's go ahead and enable this feature. All right, so I have enabled that. Then if we go to the logs, we should see a message saying that the server was registered. So that's an indication that the registration was successful. So if we now switch to the dashboard, we should see that new server that we registered called server 2. So as you can see, this is another server that we just registered. And if I go to my notification, we should have try this one. Yeah, so you would get a notification similar to this that will directly take you to that particular server that's been tagged against this particular vulnerability. It even gives a CVSS score, which is 8.8 in this case. All right. So that's the new server we registered. How to register a server? TBOS is pretty simple. It's even simpler. Actually, you can run a simple script, and you don't need to restart your server or anything like that. So it's very minimum disruption. All right. So let's talk about the remediation. So let's try to apply one of the iFix. But before I do that, I wanted to highlight one of the other feature of WebSphere Automation. It doesn't just look at the versions of Liberty or Java to determine whether it's vulnerable or not. It also actually looks at the features that are being used by this particular server. So in this case, the server that I already had, this is the CVE that's tagged against that. If you look at that, this particular vulnerability is associated with this bean validation 2.0 feature. And if I switch to the server, so you can see that this particular server is in fact using that particular feature, and that's why it was tagged as vulnerable. But just to quickly demonstrate that dynamic capability, if I were to go and disable that feature, so I just disabled that and saved it. If we go back to the dashboard, we should see that this particular server should no longer be marked as vulnerable. As you can see, it quickly switched from vulnerable to not vulnerable because it's not using that particular feature. But typically, you wouldn't do this to resolve a particular issue. But vice versa can be useful. Like, let's say you had a server, the particular configuration, it wasn't vulnerable, but then someone went and made some changes and it makes it vulnerable. Then you will get a notification to indicate just that. But in real production servers, you will typically apply an iFix or a fixpack to resolve these CVEs. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate that for this particular server that we just registered. So I already have an iFix downloaded for that particular CVE. So I'm going to So we need to stop the server first, then apply the iFix and start the server. Okay, we have just applied iFix, and I'm starting the server again. And once the server comes up, it will let WebSphere Automation know about its information and the fact that this particular iFix is now applied. WebSphere Automation will detect that, and it will mark this particular server as not vulnerable. As you can see, that server 2 is no longer vulnerable. And if you go into the server view, you can see the iFix or any fixpacks that were applied. So in this case, we applied this particular iFix. All right. So that's a quick demo on the security and the inventory.
Leo, a question came in on the chat. Somebody was asking, do we support both 905, WAS 905 and WAS 855? And I guess
yes, we do. Yeah, yes, we do. Yeah, I think it's 855.13. From that version onwards, if you are using that, then yeah, you will
as well, and as well, obviously Liberty servers. So yeah, right. 905, 855, and Liberty. Do you remember the 18 dot something of Liberty was the original?
1803.
1803. Okay, yeah. Awesome. All right, cool. Going to jump back to slides here for just a second to introduce the memory leak side. So what I want to talk to you about is the other capability that we added just recently. So as of November, we've got a new release, the WebSphere Automation, that has memory leak analysis as part of its capability. So what Leo was demoing was the security side, and this is sort of the health side of WSA. So what does it do? So automatically it detects memory leaks before they can cause a crash. We worked closely with the Instana team to diagnose a whole pile of memory leaks and try to hone the algorithm within Instana to be quite accurate for memory leak analysis, or memory leak detection, I should say. Secondly, we'll gather problem determination information when a leak is in progress. And third, analyze the problem determination info and produce a report, which you can then share with your app owners and the development team that develop the apps to go fix the memory leaks that are in their apps. So the nice thing about this is it happens automatically. You don't have to be standing by waiting anxiously to jump on a memory leak and try to get it before your server crashes. you will get an email notification, just like what Leo was showing for the security side. You'll get an email notification when a memory leak is detected, as well as when we finish the analysis. So what does it feel like, or what is it like for you today, I guess, is the question, when you encounter a memory leak in an application? So basically what ends up happening is nothing's going to immediately tell you have a memory leak. You kind of have to discover it. And that might be in the form of your servers becoming slow, or it might be that you get a heap dump left on your system. You might see an out of memory error in your logs. It's very reactive to do it that way, but you will discover it eventually. Often you have to take the data, verbose GC data, and in the top right corner here, you can see this is typically what you'd see from verbose, from garbage collection and memory visualizer, which you'd have to know how to sort of analyze the trends to be able to see whether the memory pattern matches a memory leak. That's kind of stage one. Stage two is you then gather some diagnostics, heap dumps, core dumps, that kind of stuff, and analyze it using a tool like Memory Analyzer or Heap Analyzer. There's different memory analysis tools. So you'd have to do the analysis, get the tools and do the analysis. And then once you've completed the analysis, you'd typically hand off to your application owners to go fix the problems that you found. So that's kind of the experience, the as-is experience, if you will. So what I'm going to show you, I'll show you the schematic here for a second just so you see how things fit together. On the left, you've got your Open Liberty or WebSphere Liberty, as well as your WebSphere Application Server instances. That could be one of each or 1,000 of each. In the middle, you've got Instana. Instana is monitoring your Liberty and WebSphere servers, monitoring the memory usage patterns. Once Instana determines that you've got a memory leak, it will basically raise an event, send it as an alert to WebSphere Automation. And WebSphere Automation springs it to life and contacts back to the Liberty or WAS server that was responsible for the or that was showing the leak, and collects information, in this case, a heap dump from those servers. That gets brought back to WebSphere Automation, and WebSphere Automation automatically analyzes that information. And you can view the UI from your browser, or if you weren't happening to be there with your browser at the moment, you'll get emails to be able to see that those events are occurring. So this is the overall flow, just sort of in the big picture. So WAS and Liberty being monitored by Instana. Instana detects the leak, tells WebSphere Automation. WebSphere Automation has to identify the server, right? Instana can just say, hey, a certain host has a memory leak. We're going to identify to make sure that it's actually a Liberty or WebSphere server. Once we have that information, then we'll go back to the server and collect the heap dump. We'll analyze the heap dump, and all the while you're getting notifications of this going on. So you can just watch the emails come in to say that it's analyzing a memory leak. All right, so I'm going to jump over to a demo. All right, so yeah, so what you're seeing here, I'm going to start from the Instana side. What you're seeing here is the home page when you first log into Instana. Along the left, you got different capabilities. So one of the places that you can start is at the infrastructure. This shows us the topology view of your system. You can create different zones in Instana to aggregate different servers. So perhaps that's based on team responsibility, or could be based off of what is your production environment versus your test environment, for example. So we've got these different zones that are set up. I've got a server here, which is the server that I'm going to talk about today, which is a WebSphere Application Server. You can have Liberty servers in here as well. If I click on that, I can go see the dashboard for that. So I've got different layers that Instana is aware of, right? So it's aware of everything from the host up to the process, up to the JVM, up to the application server. So all those different pieces, there are separate dashboards that you can see. So I'm going to select the JVM dashboard and open that. You can see this particular server is using about 212 megs of RAM right now. I'm going to, in a moment, simulate a memory leak. But first, I'm going to talk for a couple seconds here about a couple other things for the setup. So this is our server that we're going to poke a memory leak at, basically. Within Instana, what's going on is that it has different built-in events. And so if you go into the settings for Instana and you take a look at the events, these are all the different events that it has. And you can see there's 294 different kinds of things that it has events for. If we look at the ones that are just the built-in events, which are the ones that are sort of the business logic of Instana, 273 different ones. So, and you can see the domain of those is wide and varied, right? So everything from vaults to etcd, Elasticsearch, WebSphere, all sorts of different things, JVM. The one I'm going to be interested in this context is your JVM, right? So if I look at JVM-based events, this is the set, and you'll notice this fairly new memory leak event, which is the one that we've worked with Instana to create. So this memory leak event is effectively watching your GC patterns to detect potential memory leaks. So great. So that means Instana can watch different systems, watch different JVMs, and detect when there's a memory leak. The next stage in this is to raise an alert. So an alert is basically when an event is triggered, an alert basically says what to do with that event. So if I were to create a new alert, I can basically specify the event that I want to be triggering on. So for example, here I can say add events, and I would basically search for that same memory leak event as the event that I want to trigger on. Scope lets me then specify, I can specify that this is a focused query. So basically I can indicate the zone. So you remember a moment ago, I talked about zones where I'd set up a production zone or a test zone. I can specify that I just want one specific zone to be tracked by this alert. And then the question is, okay, great. So I know when I see a memory leak in this zone, what do I want to do with that? That's where the alert channel comes in. So you can define different alert channels in Instana that basically will drive Instana to send to an email or send to a webhook. In our case, it's a webhook that we set up. So I won't go through the exact details of setting up the webhook, but effectively you set up an alert channel that connects to WebSphere Automation that you wire your alert to. And you can also define custom payloads here. We're interested in information about the JVM. So we actually, the documentation walks you through adding a JVM PID, so the process ID of the JVM, to the information that is sent on the payload. But that's the documentation sort of walks you through these steps of setting up Instana. So next I'm going to show back to our server, back to our about to be memory leaked server. So here we are right now, 154 megs that it's using. I'm going to switch over to my, I've got a handy little curl script that will poke at that server and cause it to have a memory leak. So let's do that live. And you're seeing it. It's basically using up a certain amount of memory, and we'll see, actually I'll turn this on to live. So you can see second by second here as the memory gets consumed on that server. All right, so the memory is cranking up there. Next, I'm going to jump over to my WebSphere Automation. All right, hang on one second. I'm going to switch off screen for just 1 second here. I just realized that it had logged me out, so I need to log back in and grab my password. Apologies. All right, I'm back. So here I'm logging into, oops. Oh, hang on 1 second. I'm going to go back off screen. All right, we're back. Okay, so I'm logged into WebSphere Automation, and I will now. You can see on the left-hand side, I jump in through the application runtimes on the navigation. Okay, so we drove a memory leak a moment ago. I'm going to go to the health tab. So Leo is showing you the security. I'm going to show you the health. So you can see that the investigation is in progress on this server that we were just poking at a moment ago. And the investigation is now complete. So if I open up that investigation, we can see what it did. And effectively, the content on the right explains the details of the investigation. So you can see at the top the identification of the server, and you can see I can jump back to Instana if I want to actually see the details of that from the Instana perspective. So you can see the details, which let me just open that for a moment. Okay, and so from the you can see here the used percentage was basically the metric that it was looking at. In the case of the actual memory leak event, you'll see other metrics in here too, showing you the before GC and after GC values of your heap as well. But we used a simulated event here because it can trigger faster than the actual memory leak event. All right, so in addition to what we were just showing for the Instana, you can see the analysis summary. So what the summary, it may look a bit intimidating when you first see it, but it actually has some very good information in it. So what it's saying here is that a particular object retains a certain amount of the heap. And so I'm basically saying here, 81% of the heap is used up by this particular object. That is accumulated into a vector. So in Java, we've got vectors that we're adding objects to, and that vector is being referenced by the ML vector param servlet. And so what that means to an application owner is that I've got my memory leak vector param servlet. It's got a vector in it, and inside that vector, somebody's been storing information and not cleaning it up. So maybe a bit gorpy and intimidating to first see it, but it's actually really useful, and especially to the application owner. So what you would typically do here as your next step would be to say download all files, and that will just give me a zip file of everything that we've collected for this investigation. You can see in the history of this, starting from the bottom, this is chronologically going up. So starting from the bottom, the memory leak was detected. We identified the server. Remember, we know sort of the host name and the PID of the process. So we go off and identify the server. Once we get that information back, we collect the heap dump, and you can separately download that if you want. But the link at the top will get you all of the files. So that's probably what you'll normally use, is the link at the top. And then the analysis happened on that, which you can download the analysis separately as well. But again, probably use the one at the top. So that's basically the flow, and you've got the details. This file that you download contains the analysis summary as well as all the details about the investigation. It also includes the heap dump that we collected it also includes all the log files of all the steps that we ran individually. So you sort of have the entire package there. So yeah, the other place that you can look is, Leo showed this briefly, but the server management tab, if I'm there, I can look at an individual server, and here's my same server that I was looking at a moment ago. If I go into that, you can see the different investigations that have occurred, right? So here was the one that we just looked at. And if I click on it in this view, you'll see the same information. So yeah, so that's basically the demo of the memory leak side. I'm going to switch back to charts here for a second. All right, so yeah, that's basically what we wanted to take you through today in terms of the demo. Couple things I was going to mention. We have a very active and very helpful community. We call this the WASCAB, the Customer Advisory Board. And the Customer Advisory Board, we meet not every Thursday and Friday, but we usually meet on Thursdays and Fridays, not every one. And those are meetings where we show new content and people provide their thoughts on things that we're doing. Sometimes we'll ask for questions about sort of what we should be doing next, and to help us prioritize. All the content that we showed today are things that were prioritized by the CAB as things that they thought were the next best features that we needed to do. So we take the feedback really seriously, and the meetings are very low key. They're easy to get into. You don't have to join them all, but yeah, just join if you want to get early previews of information about what's coming in WebSphere and WebSphere Automation. And last, I don't know, Mike, if you wanted to jump on and talk about the cool new trial options that we've got.
I do, yes. Thanks, Don. So excellent demo from Don and Leo today. I'm glad we were able to share with you guys the new capabilities, as well as a bit of a refresher on the security capabilities. I'm happy to report that we have a new trial option available for WebSphere Automation as of this week, in fact. So we've had a downloadable trial, a 60-day trial for quite some time, but new as of this week is a cloud-hosted trial of WebSphere Automation. It's running in IBM Cloud, and all you need is a browser to experience the capabilities of WebSphere Automation that Leo and Don showed today. So the link for this is off of our main product page. You can also go to ibm.biz/WSA trial, and that will take you directly to the registration page for the hosted trial. You get that hands-on experience for 7 days with 0 setup required. It's really, really easy to use. Guided instructions are provided to walk you through the various aspects of it. And then if you're in a situation where you want to try WebSphere Automation for yourself, set it up in your own environment, or maybe run it in a hosted cloud, you can get that 60-day trial to give a full usage of WebSphere Automation in whatever environment that you want. So I do see a question. Let me read the question here. So the question is, a restricted use license of OpenShift is included with WebSphere Automation. But if one wants to use the memory leak detection in WebSphere Automation, one must purchase Instana, and that's the question. And the answer to that at the moment is yes. Instana is not included with WebSphere Automation at this time. And part of the reason for that is because while we have the integration with Instana today, we are working on integration with other APM solutions as well. So Don mentioned the Customer Advisory Board. That is a great way to engage with us and give us feedback. But the feedback that we're hearing from customers around the APM solutions that they use is a combination of Instana and Dynatrace primarily, and then there are some other ones as well. We have an RFE, a request for enhancements portal, that anyone can go to and open requirements against WebSphere Automation, or really any WebSphere product. And we're tracking we use that information as well as the customer conversations to track what kind of integrations are most popular and most requested. So the initial integration that Don showed is with Instana, but we have other integrations planned as well, such as Dynatrace and Prometheus. We don't bundle Instana with WebSphere Automation. In fact, we're trying not to bundle any other solutions because WebSphere Automation's design direction is to integrate with those popular solutions rather than to try and deliver yet another APM solution. That does not make sense. It makes more sense for WebSphere Automation to integrate with the APM solutions that customers have already selected, and that's exactly what we're doing with this strategy. So if you have Dynatrace, if you use Prometheus, if you have Instana, the Instana integration is delivered today, but other integrations like Prometheus and Dynatrace are to come in the not too distant future. So thank you for that question. And with that, I don't have anything else to add. Don, Leo, you guys did an excellent job today. I would encourage everyone to check out the hosted trial available from ibm.biz/WSA trial. And if you've got any closing thoughts or comments, Don or Leo, now would be a great time.
No, just want to thank everybody for joining. Yeah, appreciate your time, and yeah, we're excited to see what people think about this stuff.